Right. One moment. Just waiting to get the setup. This, this Facebook Live takes a little second. All right. Welcome to episode 12 of the discussion. Today's topic is about volunteerism, and we have a great guest with us. First, I want to say hello to my co-host, JeRod Lindsay. How are you doing, brother?
Hey, we're doing good. We're doing good. How about you, Mo?
Excellent, excellent. And I'm going to let JeRod do the honors of introducing our amazing, distinguished guest.
Distinguished is the right word. This guy's amazing, man. Management guru, former reporter, editor, and publisher of the Cincinnati Business Courier, among other publications. Former market leader and current shareholder at real estate firm Cushman and Wakefield. Former Eagle Scout, which he is extremely proud of, and former board member and chairman of the board for the Boy Scouts of America. Current faculty member at Talent Magnet Institute, and current president and CEO of Cincinnati Cares. This man has worn and does wear a lot of hats.
Uh-oh. Hold on, let me bring him back. There we go. Unmute yourself. There we go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen,
iPhone, man. It's the
Doug
iPhone.
Bolton with us. How you doing today, Doug?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Did we miss anything, Doug? Did we miss anything?
I think you got it all. Except you said former Eagle Scout. You're never a former Eagle Scout. You're always an Eagle Scout.
There you go.
Correct me if I'm wrong and acknowledge me if I'm right. You are absolutely right. Thank you, sir. Current Eagle Scout, ladies and gentlemen, Doug Bowen. What's one of the most important lessons you've learned as an Eagle Scout?
It's my project as an Eagle Scout was to paint all of the sewer covers in my hometown, and that amounted to more than 500 sewer covers.
Wow.
So the most important lesson I learned as an Eagle Scout is to wear sunscreen when you're painting sewer covers in the middle of summer.
Where's your hometown at, Doug?
It's Trenton. Well, I grew up in Trenton, Ohio. My hometown, born in Pickle, Ohio. So Trenton, Ohio is up in Butler County. I did that.
Okay. So as we mentioned earlier, you wear a lot of hats. I think as I was just looking into you, right, and doing my research, who is Doug Bowen, right? Among the volunteerism, or aside from the volunteerism, I'm wondering, how did you get to that space? How did you get to Cincinnati Care? And before you go there, can you actually tell us a little bit about what Cincinnati Care does as well?
Absolutely. So Cincinnati Cares is the only 100% focused organization on helping the volunteer in the Greater Cincinnati community find their way to help. It was born 3 years ago, 2017, when our community was experiencing actually dramatic declines in the number of volunteers in our community. And we were scratching our heads, asking a lot of questions of people in the Community United Way and Greater Cincinnati Foundation, what's going on here? And no one could really put their finger on it. And so Craig Young, our founder, and his family started working on essentially what we are today, which is the most popular way for volunteers to connect in our community. It's the community-wide guide to the active nonprofits in our community, more than 700 organizations that we connect volunteers to every single day. So how did I get there? It was not an expected journey, quite frankly. As you mentioned, 30 years in the media business, much of that at the Cincinnati Business Courier, covering business in our community. I was publisher there for nearly 15 years.
Love the Cincinnati Business Courier. I'm hoping for a 40 under 40. 40 under 40? I'm hoping.
There you go. Yeah. It's.
So if you got some pull, Doug, you got some pull.
I'll do my best. I'll do my best.
Appreciate you.
So I was, minding my own business, in my 15th year, I think, as publisher, and got recruited away to run the big commercial real estate services firm Cushman & Wakefield. And, you guys know, I mean, the media business is very, very challenging these days. And so, as I was experiencing those challenges, I was thinking about, what am I going to do to navigate those challenges? And so this opportunity to go do something different, lead a real estate company, I never had done that before. And so it was exciting opportunity, and everything that I expected out of that experience happened. We grew the business. We were already the dominant commercial real estate services firm when I joined them, and we continue to be in this region, the dominant provider of commercial real estate services. We sold the business a couple of years ago, actually now four years ago. And
I know, time's flying, isn't it?
Exactly. I stayed on after we sold the business to private equity, and I stayed on for a couple more years, and then began to think about, okay, what am I going to do next in our community? And the common theme across those 40 years in business was my volunteerism. JeRod, you mentioned, chair of the board of the Boy Scouts, chair of the board of the Better Business Bureau, chair of the board of sadly, what is now a defunct organization, but at the time was the largest home health care nonprofit in our community, the Visiting Nurse Association. So a lot of experience working with nonprofits and essentially volunteering for nonprofits. And so that's what I began to think about, was how I could help my community in the nonprofit space. And that's when I connected with Craig just about a year after he started our organization. And it was something that, he was looking for someone to help his organization. I was looking to do something different. And so that's how I came to be with Cincinnati Cares.
You said a lot. So it's actually JeRod too. So JeRod, not JeRod. It happens all the time.
Thank you for correcting me.
Hey, no problem. Believe me, it happens all the time. I'm used to it. I want to go back. So you have a lot of experience, and I actually want to attack, right? So that experience, because I want to dig deep, because I think it's valuable. I want to know, what do you think, right, as a former journalism major, what are your thoughts on how journalism is taking place today? Do you feel like it's improved any, or has it regressed? What are your thoughts on that, if any?
And you mentioned the challenges, so yeah, I'm interested in to learn what some of those challenges are working in media.
Sure. So, the digital world, Facebook, has essentially disrupted the media business, and traditional media made its money through selling advertising to support news operations, and very robust news operations that created the business of journalism, the field of journalism. Right. And reporters had the luxury to be able to take their time to fact check, do their research,
Right.
and things got published on a timely basis, but in a way that were that was the truth, and the facts were served up to our readers on a regular basis. Fast forward to today, it's the rush to publish, so the rush to press the button and put something online, the rush to beat social media, the rush to try to be in all of that essentially has removed many of the things that journalism had put in place to create fact checking, to really create quality products. So, the combination of the digital platform removing those things that made journalism solid, combined with the disruption of the business model, has made journalism today, fraught with difficulties, challenges, and it's why I said I'm glad I'm not in the role of trying to publish a business newspaper, because even in a kind of protected environment like business journalism, faces the exact same challenges that every other media does. So, JeRod, to answer your question, I'm scared for the future of journalism and newspapers, broadcast television, radio. I mean, all forms of media are challenged today by the people. I mean, anybody can be a journalist today,
Right.
and put themselves out there as being a journalist, and so therefore the value of content has been devalued, and that's what has disrupted the business model. So I mean, I'm hopeful, because I'm just a hopeful person, but I'm hopeful that some organizations will be able to navigate through this and get us through this, but we're in troubled territory, quite frankly, right now with respect to journalism and media.
Appreciate you sharing that.
I agree. I like what you said about how, basically, to sum some things up, everyone has a voice, right? And with the rush to be the person to push the button so you can have the breaking news, I think that's a scary thing. And no one really knows who to believe anymore, I believe, right? So I appreciate that. I think that's what me and Mo try to do when we bring on experts such as yourself to speak about things that happen in you all's particular field. So again, thank you for lending us your experience, and that was very insightful. So thank you for that, Doug. Thanks.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate that.
Transition to real estate, which I would never have made that connection, right? But I guess when you're just good, you're just good. How was that transition for you, Doug? Was it a very difficult one? What was that like?
So, my only connection to real estate from the journalism world was I was a real estate reporter. I mean, that is such a sliver and thin connection, but
it gets you. But it does get you. I mean, when you report on those things, you're privy to information that the layman's person would not be. So
it made enough of a connection that I was interested enough in real estate, so it made it easier. The real connection was businesses in the Greater Cincinnati region, and we have a great business community, were my customers at the Business Courier. They were my readers, they were my advertisers. And then when I made the transition to commercial real estate, those same businesses were my customers. We helped them with their facilities. We helped them find real estate. We helped them buy and sell properties. So, from a commercial standpoint, it was not that big of a leap for me to make that transition to real estate. And especially, I mean, we had a phenomenal staff at the Business Courier. My reporters and editors made me look fabulous as the publisher. The same thing occurred at Cushman & Wakefield. I had a phenomenal team of 300 people who were the best in the business, and they made my job easy. So in many respects, it was a very, very easy transition.
Right.
As a leader, right, a team of 300 people, I mean, you've been leading since your days at the Carrier, obviously. What challenges do you have when you're managing a team of that size?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of challenges. You know, literally, you can't have a relationship with all of those people, even though
Right.
you want to.
Right.
So you have to, find opportunities, create ways to be able to have those connections to everybody in the organization from top to bottom. So that's fundamentally one of the big challenges. Secondly is people. Every business that I've been involved in, the people, including today, the people in our organization are the organization's biggest assets. And so, whether it's a staff of 10 like we have now, or a staff of 300, it's the challenges are all about putting those people in the right seats on the bus, creating the environment where they can thrive, and then rewarding them with recognition, simple things, pats on the back, talking to them about how they're progressing and what they see in their career. So it's whether it's small staff, large staff, managing people is the challenges are all the same.
I like what you said when you said the people are the most important thing in regards to that organization or to any organization, right? I think it's interesting. You mentioned earlier that when in 2017, I believe, when you all seen the need for volunteers because no one wanted to volunteer. Why was that? Do you all know?
So I wouldn't say that it was that people didn't want to volunteer.
Okay.
They were having difficulty finding their way to help, finding the connection. There was no single place in our community where you could go and look at all of the needs in our community, and see all the organizations, and then make a decision about where you wanted to connect based on your interests, your skill sets.
Yep. Question, Doug. Was there any organization that had some kind of system set up for that at the time? Was there any of the organizations? The one I think of offhand, maybe United Way or.
Well, United Way is a case in point. They did have a system, but it was largely regulated around their 140 organizations that they work from a fundraising standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
But in our community, there's hundreds of other organizations that people didn't have a way to get connected with. There were other platforms as well, but they all, AARP, would focus on organizations that focused on seniors.
Gotcha.
So there was no broad-based platform that a prospective volunteer in our community could go and search based on their interests, how they wanted to volunteer, when they wanted to volunteer, to be able to make that connection. You guys know, in our community, we have some phenomenal nonprofit organizations that invest a lot of money in marketing. And so you know them very well. Free Store Food.
Yes.
Cincinnati Zoo.
Yep.
Matthew 25 Ministries.
Yep.
None of those large organizations had issues attracting volunteers. But once you get outside of the 1%, essentially the top echelon of organizations, big drop off in terms of those organizations' ability to engage volunteers. But those organizations are no less important to our nonprofit sector. And so that was what our platform did, is democratize the way that volunteers could connect to organizations, to the smallest organizations that are very meaningful in our community, to providing homeless options or pet options. So whatever your cause or interest is, we serve all nonprofit organizations.
All right. And I'm gonna share the screen really quickly of some of the showing that we have.
Do I need a pause for you to do that, Mo?
No, continue on, sir.
Okay, absolutely. So with that being said, what does it take for someone, if they're interested in becoming a volunteer with Cincinnati Cares? What would it take for someone to register and become a volunteer with Cincinnati Cares, Doug?
Yeah, so great question, and the one of the things that we did that was important is made the ability for volunteers to use our site in a frictionless way. So you didn't have to register to create an account in order to find your way to help. You could use our site without having to create another password that you're going to forget. So the architecture of the site made it easier because we didn't put up barriers that other platforms have traditionally put up, to essentially, collect information, collect data. We didn't want to do that. We didn't want to create any barriers whatsoever to making it easy for the volunteer to find their way to help. So anybody from the general public can go to our site today and can search by cause. They can search by location. They can search by any number of search parameters, because how do we find things today in our world? We do search. So we use the current modern search mechanisms to make it easy for the volunteer to find their way to help. And then once they got on the site and found that organization, we made it easy for them in one click to be able to send a message to that organization saying, hey, I'm here, I'm ready to help. And then it's up to the organization to respond. We can see that traffic and monitor it to make sure the connection is made, but then we get out of the middle of it and don't create or act as a barrier to the nonprofit engaging that volunteer. It's so important in this community to have volunteers. 40% of a nonprofit's resources are typically volunteers. So a huge resource necessary. And at the time, there was nothing like that to be able to connect. So after 3 years of connecting volunteers, we now have improved our volunteer rates in Cincinnati happily, and are helping our community move forward. Now with COVID and social unrest, even more important for us to make it easy for people to find their way to help. And we've augmented things on our site so that you can find organizations that are committed to social justice and fighting racism, and organizations that were Black founded. We've made it easy for you to essentially, activate your movement, your personal movement, to make a difference in our community.
So with that being said, I know I read something that was super exciting that you all have going on with Board Connect.
Board Connect.
This was unique when I read this. Speed dating for nonprofits and corporations. Can you tell us a little bit about that as well?
Sure. So along the way to creating the platform, we have learned that one of the things that nonprofits need most is a diverse board. So boards of directors, trustees in our community, in most communities, are notoriously undiverse. And so we perfected a platform that would make it easy for boards, nonprofit leaders to recruit candidates in non-traditional ways, and using technology. And so our theme is essentially, we want to create wider boards in this community: welcoming, inclusive, diverse, equitable, and representative. And so our platform has now been, our board platform has now been up and running for more than a year. And we've connected dozens of leader volunteers in our community to nonprofit boards using our platform. And last year we did so, we sped the connections up by having physical events. Of course, in today's environment, you can't have physical events. And so the physical events were speed dating, but now we're having events in a virtual way. Our first one next week in a virtual way.
Yes, and I actually have it on the screen here. So if you go to boards.cincinnaticares.org, it'll take you right to the website where you can register for the August 12th virtual board matching event.
Exactly. And
yes.
So the speed dating is we give all of the people who want to serve on a board the opportunity to spend 10 minutes with a nonprofit leader that they choose, and they get a context for what it's like to serve on that board and what the executive director is like. And it's just a way for us to speed the potential process of connecting a volunteer leader to their nonprofit board. So you caught on to the speed dating term. We want to make sure we explain we're not encouraging dating. We're encouraging finding a board seat, and we use the speed dating term to essentially describe the fact that we're speeding things along.
Certainly. Sorry, JeRod, 1 second. There you go, buddy.
And I am going to just reiterate that for folks, you will not be dating when you actually do the Board Connect. If you register, you will not be dating. You are not looking for a partner when you go see these execs and these people with long resumes, folks. We are looking for connections for a board. So thank you for making that clarification. If I wasn't clear before, thank you for that, Doug. What makes a good board member? You served a lot of boards. You oversaw a lot of boards. What makes a good board member?
So number one is passion for the topic. Whether it's animals, whether it's poverty, whether it's hunger, senior services, arts and culture. Having passion for the cultures. So for me, obviously, scouting, it was a huge passion of mine. And so, and why is that important? Volunteering should not feel like work. It should make you feel good, and it should make you want to spend as much time as is necessary to help that organization. So passion for the organization and for the cause is the number one thing that is the first way to match to a nonprofit. And then secondly, most people want to help their community. So either their neighborhood or the larger community near where they live or near where they work. So location is another one. I mean, if you have to drive, all the way across town to serve, obviously in today's environment, you don't have to drive because everything's done virtually.
Right.
A lot of things are done virtually. So, but that can be an important thing in terms of picking the nonprofit that you help. They should be somewhere close to you or somewhere close to a place that you are passionate about. And then finally, matching skill. So what is it that you are good at that you can help the nonprofit? And this is the way, volunteerism is changing. So the, kind of the old model of volunteerism was, I don't mind planting tulips, doing landscaping, painting walls, because I'm passionate about this organization. I want to help them save money in any possible way that I can. And in today's environment, in today's COVID environment, you can't do those things, or you can't do them very often or in big numbers because of COVID and its impact. So the new way of volunteering is using your skills. So what are you good at? So for me, writing, marketing, business development, those are the things that I have experience at. And so those are the things that I want to apply to the nonprofit. So anybody who's out there thinking about how can I help, just think about what you're good at and then apply that to the nonprofit that desperately needs your help in this community. So whether it's graphic arts or web design or technology or writing, communication, finance, whatever it is, if you're good at it and you get paid to do it, why not do that for the nonprofit? You won't get paid for it, but you'll develop lots of muscle in that work, whether it's doing it over and over again or developing leadership in that arena. And it's really, really good for you as an individual. Number one, it makes you feel good, but it also helps build your resume and build your set of experiences so that when you can take those experiences and get paid for them, you're even better.
Exactly.
Than before.
Exactly. Thanks, Doug. And I got a question to follow up there. JeRod and myself, we're actually on the Young Professional Board for the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative. Love the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative. I've actually just became a full board member in July. So I always got to give my plug to the Cincinnati Youth Collaborative. But if you could speak to this, the importance, especially for nonprofits, those that got the capacity to have a young professionals board or a young professional advisory board. Can you speak a little bit about that and why those are important?
Well, they're all important, and every organization should be trying to figure out how to engage younger professionals, because
I appreciate that. Thank you for stating that.
Yeah, most boards are filled with old white guys like me, and like I said, we need to create more diverse boards in this community, because your life experiences, JeRod and Maurice, are different than my life experiences, and what you bring to the table is so much of value to every organization. So that's why, whether it's your age, whether it's where you grew up, whether it's your race, all of those life experiences bring value to a nonprofit board. A nonprofit board should be seeking as much diversity as possible. So developing a young professional board is a way for an organization to essentially develop a pipeline that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you guys are going to be sitting at the main board making decisions, and by your experience on the young professional boards, you're going to be so far ahead of where I was when I joined my first board when I was 40 years old. I didn't have those experiences that you guys are having, 20-somethings and 30-somethings. So you guys are going to be making so much better impact on those organizations than I was able to. That's why it's important.
Okay. So and I'm sorry, JeRod, I got one more question to follow up. So how do we help encourage, if we work for a nonprofit, or if we are involved with a nonprofit, how do we encourage them to begin to establish YP advisory boards or young professional boards?
Yeah, so number one, they should register on boards.cincinnaticares.org and begin the process of recruiting.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean, literally, create a board positions that apply to the young professional board, and use that as the first step to connecting with young professionals that obviously in today's COVID environment, you don't have the opportunity to network in the way that you used to. And so you have to do networking in different ways. And that's what the platform provides, is an ability to connect in ways that you can't do today. So the other ways is talk to those organizations that are doing it right now. So Cincinnati Youth Collaborative, Habitat for Humanity.
Love Habitat for Humanity.
Ronald McDonald House. There's a number of organizations that have young professional boards. The Daniel Beard Council of the Boy Scouts, we have a young professional board. So talk to those organizations and learn what they've learned, so that you don't make the same mistakes that they made as they developed those young professional boards.
Certainly. Thanks, Doug. JeRod?
Doug, you've mentioned a lot how everything is virtual, right? We're living in a virtual society as of now due to COVID. You also mentioned some social unrest earlier that happened in the year and still ongoing, right? Can you tell us how any of this has impacted, specifically COVID, right? With the economy being in a situation that it's currently in, funds being cut, how nonprofits have been impacted. Have you seen any direct impacts?
Yeah, it's a really sad story, quite frankly. There are estimates that anywhere from 30 to 40% of nonprofits in our community, in every community, will not survive COVID and the economic impacts. I mean, when you think about, most nonprofits have less than 6 months of operating reserves. And when a pandemic shuts down the economy for 8 weeks or more completely, and then an economy doesn't return to normal for another multiple weeks, you can only, you don't have to be a mathematician
at all.
Understand that a nonprofit can easily blow through their cash reserves and not be able to operate. So there are dozens of stories like that in Cincinnati. You can actually see the impact on our site. We began collecting that data of how nonprofits have been impacted and hoping that their willingness to share how they've been impacted will help them raise money and help them recover and become more resilient. So, 500,000 lost volunteer hours and $150 million of economic impact to our nonprofits just, in the short 20 weeks that we've been facing with COVID, is just the tip of the iceberg of the impact. And that's why virtual platforms like ours, connecting events like Board Connect and a series of more virtual events that we are going to be hosting in this community to connect skilled volunteers to nonprofits. That's why those efforts are so important today, even more important than they were before COVID.
Are you still seeing that volunteers are still needed in you all space? Is there still a good amount of traffic within the Cincinnati Care website and portal?
Yeah, great question. We saw at the beginning of March, really the end of February, we saw the fear of COVID in our numbers. The traffic patterns were declining at the end of February. Of course, all through March, people were quite panicked about doing their traditional volunteering because of COVID. Those numbers have recovered a little bit, but they're still far depressed compared to what they were in 2019 when we had record numbers of referrals to nonprofits in this community. And it makes sense. I mean, nonprofits are struggling to engage their traditional volunteers. I mean, they can only use, the estimates are anywhere from only 10% to 15% of their traditional volunteer base is the amount that they're able to engage today because they can't do things the way that they used to. So it's no wonder that they don't have a need for new volunteers in this environment. And so that's why it is really important for nonprofits to think differently about how to engage volunteers through virtual means, through socially distant, remote ways that are safe. And so on our website, we've created a new category called Ways to Help Now, COVID Ways to Help Now. And there's almost 100 different ways on there that nonprofits have become inventive. They're either virtual or socially distant safe, so that they can appeal to volunteers who want to, because you guys are probably perfect examples of this. You're quarantined, your work is different.
Yes.
But that doesn't make you feel any less different than you were before COVID about wanting to help. And so we are creating those avenues for people to find those safe ways to help, as well as really boring down on the board platform, as well as the skills platform that we've developed to really help people put their skills to work in this community. And so we only have a few more minutes to talk, so there's actually another chapter to have a discussion around how we can engage people in this community around their skills.
Yes. I appreciate that. And Rod, I got a quick question. If you can, so Doug, we've been throwing the word boards around. Get on a board of directors. I'm gonna mute you real quick, JeRod. Get on a board of directors. Some people that might be like, well, I don't know if I've never been on a board before. What does a board member do? Well, I know earlier you spoke about the different ways that what it involves being a board member. But
Sure.
if you can, and this probably be giving a plug to the Bowl platform, actually. If you could speak a little bit about that. I'm actually a member of Bowl 3, so Leadership Council, thank you. Bowl used to be a pro. Actually, Doug, I'm going to let you take that away.
Yeah. So I'm a graduate of Bowl too.
There you go.
So, and what that is a training, a long-form training program, 6 to 8 weeks, to really help you understand what a board member does and the legal responsibilities. But don't let that intimidate you. There are ways that you can get trained in a short way. We actually offer that kind of training, but it really boils down to a couple of simple things. You as a volunteer are essentially activating your volunteerism to the highest level available in a community by serving as a fiduciary responsibility to the organization. And what that fiduciary word means is nonprofits are not owned by anybody, they're owned by the public. And so you are, as a board member, you are a representative of the public to make sure that that nonprofit is following the letter of the law. You probably heard stories about the attorney generals in various states suing nonprofit organizations because they're not following the letter of the law. And so you as a board member are responsible for making sure your nonprofit follows the letter of the law. And that's, if I had to summarize exactly what board position is, that's what it is. It's a commitment anywhere from a year to 3 years is the typical commitment. And you serve, anywhere from 10 hours a month, to 20 hours a month, depending on the size of the board. And again, as long as you pick a board that you're passionate about, an organization that you're passionate about, then it doesn't feel that 10 hours a month doesn't feel like work, because it's something that you're passionate about. And so many people get caught up on the old model of board seats where you had to write a big check. Now, granted, there still is a need for nonprofits to generate money through donors and through board seats, but enlightened nonprofit organizations are figuring out ways to engage people who maybe do not have the means to write a big check, but they have the means to be able to get access to potential big checks. And so networks and organizations or communities that board member can bring access to the nonprofit organization. So it's no longer is it an actual requirement in most boards that you write a big check. Yes, they want you to write something, make a personally significant gift. And for some people, personally significant could mean $10, and that's okay, because that's you're covering the responsibility of making a gift to the nonprofit. Does that help, Maurice? In terms
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you, Doug. Thank you. That's perfect. JeRod?
So as we close, I do want to let everyone know that Maurice has put the Cincinnati Care website.
Yep.
Right. You posted
yes.
it as well.
Yes.
There's a lot of information there. It's a great website. I was pleasantly surprised about how user-friendly this website is. It's better than most websites that I've been through for Fortune 500 companies. So kudos to you and your team, Doug.
Yeah. And I want to give a plug. to it really
absolutely.
quickly. I actually, I'm gonna mute you real quick, JeRod. I actually, I'm a board member of the No Theater, and I got that position back on the the Board Connect platform on the website. So thank you, Doug, because I wouldn't be involved in the No Theater and the great program that they're continuing to put on amid COVID. So thank you on that. JeRod?
So what that means, folks, is that if you want to be on a board, if you want to be connected to a board that is suitable to you and that will invoke or that you will be passionate about and you want to learn a little bit more about it, definitely go to Cincinnati Care, right?
I'm gonna need you to say that one more time, JeRod. Say that all you just said one more time.
If you want to be on a board that is suitable to you, that is personable, that you are passionate about, you need to be at Cincinnati Care. Their website is cincinnatiCare.org or
That is correct.
.org.
Yes.
The functionality, Doug, we can't overstate how great this functionality is. It's really seamless process to register. As Doug mentioned earlier, you do not have to create a password or username. Doug, we appreciate that as well.
Yes,
no
we do.
Username, no password, very easy process. Doug, we're going to give you the last word. Is there anything that we're missing aside from the speed networking, right, to find the perfect match for you on August 12th, the last day to register? Correct me if I'm wrong, it's today.
It is today. So yeah, you're running out of time. You got to get on there.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right, Doug. So do you want to go ahead and give anything else? Is there anything that we're missing that you would like to say before we close for the evening?
Yeah. So again, guys, thanks for the opportunity to be part of your 12th episode. That's phenomenal.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, all the topics that you guys have talked about, really, really important to the community. And I think that is, this site was created. I mentioned our founder, Craig Young, and his family foundation. And, we have essentially built this site, for the community. And we are really looking forward to helping this community, so with the community, building more resilient nonprofit organizations to survive the COVID period, the economic calamity that has resulted from COVID, as well as the very difficult social unrest that we all have been experiencing, but importantly, creating tools that help everyone in our community take action, do something to essentially help our community recover from all of those things. So whether it's the board platform, in boards, .cincinnaticares.org, or our skills platform, which you can get to it from cincinnaticares.org, but I can't emphasize enough that if you have skills that you want to put to action, maybe you're not quite ready to serve on a board, but you want to do something, you need to go to cincinnaticares.org. You scroll down underneath, essentially 1/3 of the way, and you'll see a big banner that says, "Put your time and talent to work for the movement," and you click there, and that begins the process of taking you to a place where you can begin to register as a skill-based volunteer. And that, other than the boards, is the big way that people can begin to make a difference in this community. You can go to Cincinnati Cares, you can search, you can organize and figure out a way to connect with nonprofits, but the boards platform and the skills platform can really speed that connection along for you in this community.
Certainly. And really quickly, I noticed the tab on the website. It says "Fighting Racism and Injustice." If you could talk a little bit about what Cincinnati Cares is doing to fight racism and injustice in our communities.
Sure. So we have always supported social justice and equality organizations, those organizations that have that as their cause. But we thought it was important in the wake of the George Floyd killing that we help our public find those organizations. So that's why we put them front and center on our site, so that people coming to our site could see the organizations that are actually doing things, from the National Underground Freedom Center to the Urban League, to the Greater Cincinnati Foundation, to the YWCA in its constant fight for racism. So you can find those organizations. There's actually 180 organizations.
Yes, I got it right on the screen share right now. Yes,
that are fighting racism, and so you can easily find those organizations and line up your passions with those particular organizations, and then right underneath that, we've highlighted the organizations in our community that have been Black founded. So there's 50 nonprofit organizations that were either founded by a Black citizen, or they were co-founded by a Black citizen. And so again, in our effort to help our community support those organizations in this critical time right now, we wanted to put those organizations front and center. And there's also 90 organizations, 90 of our 600 nonprofits in this community that are either have a board chair or their CEO is Black, and so those organizations are part of that feature, so that people in our community can support those organizations and help them achieve their goals in a way that I think helps our community fight racism and build better justice in our community.
Wow, thank you for stating that, Doug. I think it's many of our viewers as well would it'd be great to hear that. JeRod?
Doug said it all. There's nothing left for me to say. Doug, I appreciate you. Thanks a lot for coming on, man. I've learned so much within a short period of time from your business savvy, your volunteerism. Thank you a lot. We really appreciate your time.
Breaking news really quickly. The Board Connect registration has been extended until Sunday. Just based on we got it extended. So Sunday, you got till Sunday to sign up for the Board Connect event. Registration extended until Sunday. So breaking news.
Talking about those talented colleagues of mine who are
yes,
doing what we need to do.
Yes, and I'm going to share the link as well on the Facebook page and on my Facebook page, and as well as others. And I'll be sure to tag you as well, JeRod. But Doug, thank you so much. I echo JeRod's sentiments. I've learned so much. And oftentimes, being in the community and being as involved as I am, I happen to serve on a number of boards myself, including the Cincinnati College Preparatory Academy, Cincinnati Youth Collaborative, and the No Theater. There's always persons and friends and family asking me what is the way that they can help. There are many young professionals who are interested in getting involved. Also, I founded and began the CYC Young Professionals Board, which I'm greatly proud of. I know today we have 22 young professional board members. Greatly thankful for that, and getting young professionals involved. But thank you for taking the time to break this down for us, and we'll be sure to share many of these resources. Again, as I mentioned, we'll be sharing this the Board Connect registration link. Thank you, Carol, for that. And I also want to so next week, episode 13, we will have Mike Morawski, board member for the CPS, on to discuss CPS reopening plans. If you're not aware, on Monday, they had announced that they will be going virtual for the first 5 weeks of the school year. So Mike Morawski is going to join us next Friday on the discussion to speak about those things. And also his work in instituting racial justice learnings in the public schools. So we look forward to having Mike Morawski on. Again, thank you, Doug. JeRod, you my mans. I appreciate you, brother. And thank you all. You all have a great night, okay? Thank you.
Have a great night, you too.
All right, enjoy. All right.
Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks again, Doug. I greatly appreciate it.